Welcome back to Abru TV's America Votes 2010. Now to take a closer look at the issues at stake in this midterm election, we're joined in the studio by William James Hoffer, a historian from Seton Hall University, Ben Dworkin, director of the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University, and William Rogers, a chief economist at Rutgers University's Heldrich Center for Workforce Development. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight, for joining us in this very important election season. I'm actually going to start with you, Professor Dworkin. Let's talk a little bit about, give me an overview, I guess, of the political landscape. What are we seeing in this midterm election? What's kind of the sentiment that voters are really feeling, the top issues? Kind of give us an overview of the landscape.
Sure. Well, the first midterm election of any new presidency historically helps the party that is not in control of the White House. Historically, we're talking about Republicans, given that the Democrats will control the White House, should have picked up 26 seats in the House of Representatives across the country. Given that we have 9.5% unemployment, we will easily, I'm expecting that we're going to see that at least double, if not go beyond that. The economy is the dominant issue that we're seeing, and it's having a real impact, making previously safe Democratic seats, even those are becoming very competitive tonight.
Let's get a little bit of a historical perspective on the economy, looking back maybe to some parallels that have been drawn between the administration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and now of President Barack Obama in relation to the economy. Could you draw a couple of parallels for us, and are we seeing similarities?
We certainly are, at least in some regards, and that is the fact that this obviously is one of the worst economies since the Great Depression. We do have President Obama and the Democrats being elected in 2008 on the prospect that they will perform major change, resuscitate the economy, hopefully. But largely that's where the comparison ends, because whether or not the stimulus was large enough, small enough, too small, too large, it hasn't had the impact that they needed. So instead of seeing a 1934 where President Roosevelt's Democrats actually exceed expectations and they gain seats in both the House and the Senate, we're now seeing something closer to Herbert Hoover in 1930. And this is what my colleague has been talking about, which is the fact that it's now putting Barack Obama in a situation more of a Jimmy Carter than a Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
When we look at the numbers, when we look at the economy, I mean, is it time for President Obama to look at, a New Deal, per se? I mean, does he really need to come out with something bold and something, looking at like the New Deal did at relief and recovery and maybe even some economic reforms, and really dig in there to the economy?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that. I mean, I worked on Obama's transition team at the Department of Labor. And one of the key phrases that we talked about when we began to sort of take stock of where we were at was really undoing the erosion in workers' rights, in safety, in the growing inequality, income inequality that we had seen emerge basically since the late 1970s, 1980s. And that focus was about stopping the bleeding. That was our big key phrase. And so, one of the challenges he's going to have tomorrow morning and going into the lame duck session and next year will center around that the numbers in terms of how I see it, and yes, I worked in front of the administration, but the numbers, I think, tell that we have more and more Americans who are having difficulty, and it's not just those who are in poverty, it's not just those who are just below a self-sufficiency budget, but we see many more college graduates who are having difficulty making ends meet. So this is a time of great change, and I am kind of been perplexed as to, he was elected on this mandate of change, but the independent voters really seem to have been very fickle with him.